I do have to give a shout out to the podcast, the Couch GM Pod.
Washington State with a thriller in Oxford, Mississippi against Ole Miss, number 4 ranked Ole Miss this past weekend. They fall to Ole Miss 24-21. They very well could have had that game and beaten the number 4 team in the country. They're going to be headed to Virginia, number 18 ranked Virginia, this coming weekend. So we're going to get into the preview of the Virginia. But first off, we have to talk some Mariners baseball. If you're a fan of the show, you're probably in the Pacific Northwest. You're probably a baseball fan also. If you're not watching the Mariners right now, you absolutely have to tune in. They just won the second game in the ALCS. They're now 2 wins away from heading to their first ever World Series. Now they have another 3 games coming up, which are in Seattle. So they won 2 games in Toronto, a day off tomorrow, starting Wednesday, a 3-game series in Seattle. They're in a prime spot to go to the World Series for the first time in their franchise. And you know, if you've been watching the playoffs so far, the feeling that you had in the ALDS of every game was nail biter, back and forth. Game 5 against Tarek Skubal, having to beat him for a 4th time. Now you go into Toronto. They had 3 days rest. The Mariners played a 15-inning game on a Friday, a 5-hour game. The next day, they jump on a plane for 5 hours, head to Toronto. They then take 2 games from Toronto. Now they have to go back, and Toronto has to try to scrape some games. In the history of playoff baseball, in a 7-game series, when a home team loses the first 2 games, only 11% of those teams have gone on to advance. So that means that the Blue Jays essentially have an 11% chance of advancing to the World Series. So I'm fired up. Dylan is a honorary Mariner fan right now as well.
I am. And I just, in 2019, I was in the same position as you Mariner fans were. We went into Houston, took 2. And then it ended up being the only series in a championship 7-game series in the NHL, the NBA, or the MLB where the road team won every single game. We came back to DC, lost 3 in a row, went back to Houston, won the next 2. But I mean, gosh, this Mariners team, they've got a lot of similarities from that 2019 team. Victor Robles on both of them, but Josh Naylor, I mean, my girlfriend, she calls him the villain. And I think that's a great, because she's like, he looks like a villain. I go, yeah, he's a badass. He's not trying to lose. Like, he's a real one. What you guys are getting from your starting pitching, Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller being able to go 6 innings in game 1 with a half-empty tank of a bullpen. Bizzardo has been amazing over his last 2 appearances after kind of getting a little roughed up the first 2 times out in that series. But you can't ask for more as a Mariner fan. You're up 2-0, big time. They're going to do it. They're going to get to the World Series, take care of business, take 2 out of 3 at home, and we likely see maybe a Mariners-Dodgers World Series.
It's just an unreal feeling right now. And if you are tuning in, you also have to watch the NLCS because it is the Brewers and the Dodgers. The Brewers have home field advantage right now. You hope that it's the Brewers just because I freaking hate the Dodgers, you know, those big market teams that are constantly in it, but we'll take on whoever. It feels like it's the Mariners here. So
Brian Wu back too, but you know, we'll end it with that, folks. I know, you know, we got Mariner energy
right in the background. I've got to talk about some Mariners.
Connor, what are you sipping on this evening?
Oh yeah, so I was telling Dylan, it was his recommendation that we do a little beer on the podcast this time. I got a Sierra Nevada hazy little thing, TikTok shop, like $10. This is a nice Coog cooler to where you put this in the fridge. It takes regular cans, tall boys, and it keeps your drink nice and cold through the end. So I got a little hazy. What about you?
Our good pal Mike Hess going with a Running in Triangles West Coast IPA, and this is an ode to Pod versus everyone. We're not going to be beer guys. That's their shit. But you know what? I needed a beer tonight. Connor said he was down.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's unpack this. 24-21 at Ole Miss. I was, I coached JV baseball. We had a black versus red game Saturday morning, started at 9. I was like, brother, I'm out of here at 9:30. I'll show up at 8. I'll get everything started. I'll throw the boys BP. I'm watching Ole Miss and WSU. And Connor, all of a sudden, let's start from the first drive. WSU Ole Miss. Ole Miss is driving down the field, kind of getting what they want on the ground. And WSU comes up strong inside the 5-yard line on the 3. Lane Kiffin decides to go for it on 4th and 3 from the goal. And WSU's defense comes up with a huge stop. And you could feel the momentum change. And then, pregame as well. Let's back this up a little bit further. You're looking at pregame on Twitter, and I'm like, there is 5,000-6,000 Cougs out there. And then all of a sudden, Betsy Cantwell, our new president, posts a Twitter. Yeah, right here. In case you missed it, President Cantwell joined 6,000 plus Cougs in Oxford to cheer on WSU Cougar football as they took on top-ranked Ole Miss. A tremendous effort by the student athletes, an incredible showing of Coug spirit from fans. And we'll dive into a few other comments from the game. As you can see, WSU basketball head coach David Riley and Pedro Garcia Rosado, as well as their GM, whose name is escaping me right now. David Robinson. I'm 68. I've been to Ole Miss games my entire life. I've never seen a visiting team bring more fans than the WSU Cougars had yesterday. WSU's fan support was impressive. Sloan. Yeah, it was me and Sloan Kettering, and you guys have seen Step Brothers. But Sloan had a chance to chat with a few in the Grove pregame, have props for the big turnout. Was pleased they were happy with the fan treatment in the Grove. Sloan might have had a couple when he was writing that tweet. And then Marvin over here, Washington State brought enough fans 3,000 miles away to be louder than the entire student section.
It was homecoming at Ole Miss.
Yeah, shameful. So it was just great to see the turnout, the support. Here's a video from WSU Cougar football afterwards, and there was plenty of Ole Miss media contingents that also tweeted this out and couldn't help but be shocked by the support of Washington State. And it's like, hey, back then you go down to the Rose Bowl, UCLA game, USC game, or Oregon, whatever. I mean, we travel. We love to go on the road, and this was just amazing. Amazing. And not all those people are in the Coug 1890 club either, but they'll spend $700 on flights.
Yeah, that's wild.
An Airbnb in whatever bum blank where in America in Mississippi, and have a $2,000, $2,500 weekend. Join the 1890 club. Please do it now. Do it tomorrow. Get in there. We digress there a little bit because of how great the fans were in Ole Miss. But yeah, they get a 3-and-out in that first drive, and then you come down and you put together a drive, and all of a sudden you're looking at the offensive line, you're like, they're running the football. Like, there's some lanes. One thing that I've been dying for this year with Danny Freund and A, was get Zevi Eckhouse into the starting lineup. That's done. Check. But B, like, where's some of the misdirection? Where are some of these plays that we've seen South Dakota State run, with Gronowski and their offense in 2023 and 2024? Like, it's been a little vanilla all year long when it comes to our offensive attack. And you know what? Danny Freund said, Dill, I got you with this first touchdown pass. Julian Duggar enters onto the field. He actually takes a direct snap and then hands the ball off to Zevi Eckhouse. When Zevi got the ball, he had less than about a second to just huck the ball in the end zone and find true freshman Landon Wright, who caught his first touchdown pass of the season.
Fighting their way into a scoring opportunity.
Julian Duggar is in the backfield with Eckhouse. Eckhouse turns, throws to the end zone. Touchdown! Landon Wright uncovered.
Dude, how about the backflip celebration? I mean, that is, I don't know how many other celebrations.
They from Scatabo, I think, right? Scatabo's got the backflip. Yeah.
Somebody did it in the NFL yesterday too. It's like,
yeah.
It's like
love that play call though. Love that play call though. And Zevi was just able to get the ball off. He's wide open in the end zone. And I must say, this offense was built exactly for a guy like Zevi, a guy that is the dual threat type of guy that he's not wanting to run all the time like Duggar seems to do. Maybe that's just the play calls that they have when Duggar's in the game. But Zevi is a true game manager quarterback who has the ability to roll out and to rush if needed. And he's making the throws. He's got the ability, and I'm excited to see how this year finishes out for this offense.
Yeah, and Zevi had a fantastic game last week. I mean, he's 24 for 31, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns. He never really put a throw in a position where you thought there might be an interception. He managed the game well. Other than the penalties, Cougars were able to get enough first downs to keep the chains moving, but there was just some illegal formation penalties that killed us. And granted, that's going to happen with offensive linemen shuffling in. Christian Hilborn, who I actually have some insider news on and what his health and timeline might look like, and I'll get into that in a bit. But Christian Hilborn was unable to play. He was injured at practice. So in comes Jalen Caldwell, a guy that when you take a look at who tried to get him this offseason at Kentucky, a couple other SEC schools. I mean, the kid is, Connor, I don't know if you want to fact check me on Caldwell's height and weight here, but I believe he's 6'7", around 350, like a 6'6", 350 kid. I mean, he's huge. Right. He really stood his own.
6'6", 330.
Yeah, 6'6", 330 pounds out of Chicago. And other than cramping up, he was able to finish out the game. The offensive line was phenomenal this year. Johnny Lester, old friend, and you know what? Maybe a friend of the program soon. Austin Getz, who we played club baseball with at WSU, is now a sports reporter at SWX. And, he basically retweeted my tweet earlier on Johnny Lester, who is starting at left guard for the Cougs on a big 46-yard touchdown run from Kirby Voorhees. Johnny Lester had a fantastic double block where he was getting downfield. His first man, pancake, second man, see you later. He's the first one in the end zone picking up Kirby Voorhees. But Austin retweeted, he said, Johnny Lester didn't play a single snap of football until he got to high school at Northwest Christian, and now is doing this. The guy said he didn't even know WSU was in Pullman growing up! ! What a story. And it was just nice to see a big run.
Rossi's 5-yard catch. Voorhees, first down and more. He's free. Touchdown, Washington State.
I want to start that again. I want you folks to focus in on left guard, which is going to be the second person on the line on the top of the screen here.
Rossi's 5-yard catch. Voorhees, first down and more. He's free. Touchdown.
I mean, just fantastic blocking, getting downfield and getting a hold of that linebacker. That was big time. And it's funny, I had a couple people say, gosh, somebody might give Kirby Voorhees a bag in the parking lot at this point. I mean, that's where we're at in college athletics. And we brought this up last week with MK. We said, hey, take your victory lap, Connor.
Yeah. So in the preview with MK, he asked who our favorite running backs were. You said Leo. I said Kirby Voorhees. Just from watching every game this season, Kirby has had the best success. He runs with the most authority, I would say. I don't want to say Scatabo, but he hits holes. He's not afraid of contact. He's elusive when he needs to be, but he blasts through the holes. I'm not taking anything away from the other running backs, but Angel Johnson is elusive, but he just hasn't been able to find the open space that he needs. Kirby Voorhees just bolts through there, and he's catching the ball out of the backfield. He's going through holes like you saw there, and he finally got his breakaway. He finished with 10 carries, 88 yards, 8.8 average, and he's leading the team in rushing yards with, I believe, 244 so far this year.
And what's Stone Cold Steve Austin saying the longest yard? You probably know. We'll just leave it.
I haven't seen the longest yard in so long.
Oh, what? Oh,
if you say it, I'm sure I'll remember it.
Okay, you know what? We're gonna pause right here because we are going to insert this clip. into this show.
That's how a white man runs a football.
Going off of that's what we get for having a beer on the show. But going off of just the whole running back room situation, Leo, 3 receptions for 22 yards, didn't really get a lot of opportunities. I mean, as he shouldn't. Give the hot hand the ball. And Kirby was the hot hand this past weekend. So one thing I want to see with Angel is let's have Kirby and Angel in the backfield. Let's start motioning Angel. Let's put him in the slot. Let's have him motion and run as they hike the ball. I know there's probably a better term for that, you football aficionados, but that's what I'm going with.
Motion.
Yeah. Well, no, but when typically with a motion, they'll motion over, they'll stop, they'll get set, but there's some motions where they're just running off the ball. Yeah. That's what I want to see. All right.
Horizontal and they keep going.
Exactly. So there was a lot to like with the offense this week. Another thing, 14-10, Kirby Voorhees runs in for that touchdown run. And I get back from baseball practice. I text Connor. I'm like, hey, dude, blah, blah, blah. Another text. Hey, dude, throw up the text thread. Yeah. The eye emoji. Classic text when you're in the midst of a possible upset. Bruh, where are you at? Brother, where art thou?
10 minutes
and then
later.
At this point, I'm sorry. Bring the earmuffs. Connor, what in the bleep are you okay? Where are you? I was in all caps mode right there. I just woke up and turned on the game, 12:33 p.m. Now,
so I was looking
to give Connor credit. He sent a picture of some champagne he bought from Trader Joe's as the Mariners.
My wife bought it. I'll give her credit.
Okay, my wife. Take it here.
No, yeah, I mean, okay, so that was Saturday morning, obviously. Friday night, as we all know, is Game 5 of the ALDS, the 15-inning, 5-hour game. The Mariners finally pulled it off. I was pumping champagne. I decided to make a YouTube video. I was up until 4 in the morning, both because I had to feed my 2-month-old baby and then also making the YouTube video. And I had my alarm set for 9:30, but my wife, to her credit, she said that I haven't been prioritizing sleep, so she let me sleep in. So I woke up at 12:30. Dylan's blowing me up. I'm like, what? It's 12:30. What? Run downstairs, turn on the game. Like, we're beating Ole Miss right now.
14-10. And then as Connor turns on the game, as he's watching, they come down, they score a touchdown in the first half. So I was like, what should we have woke him up? But 17-14 in a halftime. And then WSU's defense Isaac Terrell this past weekend, the most TFLs for a defensive player, I think, since 2018 is what WSU Cougar Football tweeted out. Don't quote me on that. I want to say it's 2017, 2018. He was a wrecking ball all game long. Had some big sacks. They really made that quarterback look like a Division II transfer. He just was not on his game. WSU was able to get pressure. They had 3-4 sacks in the game. That's huge. You saw Darian Dalton come in. You really saw that hockey kind of line change lineup with their defensive line, in motion. And I think there's a lot of takeaways for the rest of the season. And do we still have a photo of the schedule still saved in here?
Yep, here we go.
From prior. Okay. So, hey, we're now in week 7. And let's be honest. At the beginning of this season, I tell you we're going to be 3-3 after 6 weeks. Are you taking that?
Yeah, because Idaho, San Diego State, I think we would have won. At North Texas, we took as a loss. Washington,
3 road games.
Up and down. Colorado State was going to be tough. I think we took a loss. You have to take a loss at Ole Miss. I mean, the fact that you were able to take that Colorado State game, that was big. I mean, you could have been 2-4 easily. And then, coming into obviously Ole Miss and then at Virginia, these are both really tough games. And then you hope to win Toledo. And then look at Oregon State. We thought we'd go 1-1 versus Oregon State. Now they're losing to everybody and their mom. So we're probably going to go 2-0 versus it.
I felt like anxious about taking the Cougs to split it at the start of the year with what they had in their.
You thought they would be good with transfer quarterback? Some of the other guys that they had coming in, you thought they would be a solid team.
At Oregon State, still going to be a tough game. I don't care what anybody says. 0-7.
Wake Forest went and beat them.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a dumpster fire over there, especially everything going on with their NIL, where not 100% of the money is being sent to the athletes. It's
For
a bit
Washington
of a
State, I
mess.
guess 97%.
97%. So pull that schedule back up one more time for me. So yeah, here's our arguably our toughest game left on the schedule. You maybe make an argument, James Madison, another East Coast trip, but Virginia's 5-1. They're number 18 in the country. Their big prominent win was against Florida State, and since then Florida State has cratered. So do we know how good this Virginia team is? We had a Wahoo's 247 writer on that you'll see later on in the show, and she told us that she's not used to this type of Virginia program winning the cupcake games by 3 to 4 possessions. So she thinks that the jury's not still out with the Virginia Cavaliers. She thinks they're here and they're a real contender in terms of the ACC. I see 3 more wins here, Connor. I don't know how you don't. I see a Louisiana Tech dub. I see one of the Oregon State dubs and Toledo.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
So get to a bowl game.
Yeah. And I mean, coming into the season, we all said we have no clue what to expect. Then we start, there's the Idaho game, obviously dual threat quarterback. They made it close. San Diego State looked more of like what we might have expected. And then 2 complete blowouts that are just like, okay, what are we doing? And then you come completely back the other way. You win at Colorado State. Obviously, number 4 in the country, Ole Miss, as Roger says in his presser, that it's a loss. There's no moral victories. This is a loss, and like the player should hear that it's a loss because that's what it is. That's what matters. But the fight that whether it was Ole Miss, like we all said, even talking with the lockdown Ole Miss, this is a total trap game for Ole Miss because they beat number 4 LSU, then at number 10 Georgia, at number 6 Oklahoma. Say what you want, like Washington State put up a fight at Oxford, Mississippi, and then I mean, you just don't know what to expect moving forward. It like resets your expectations of, hey, there's actually some real potential with this current team.
Absolutely. And honestly, I don't know. I'd be lying to you if I wasn't anxious and feeling some type of way after North Texas and UW.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just
it's like
two brutal back-to-back victories. And granted, like the North Texas game, there was some weirdness involved with that score. Like, let's be honest.
It's like, get Zebi in the game, please.
Yeah, but 59-10 is still 59-10. Let's not get that twisted. So there's a lot to take from this, but I mean, that could have been such a huge program defining moment for Jimmy Rogers and his staff. And for that to happen in year 1, I mean, you have another opportunity this week. Granted, it's Virginia. It doesn't have the same sexiness and flavor as Ole Miss and Hotty Toddy.
If you beat number 18, though, it's still a ranked opponent.
Yeah, that's still a ranked win for a year 1 head coach. And, somebody tweeted at me after the game. I kind of tweeted, hey, these young men, they should be proud of what they did this week and how they showed up with what we've seen so far this season. And someone said, hey, this has got to be a good benchmark or just at least a light bulb for the transfer portal next year. I mean, we've got guys like Mola that have, transferred down, came from Michigan State to WSU, maybe a guy that isn't getting the amount of snaps and the amount of reps that he wants at that P4. Well, they're looking, okay, well, where's the next best option where I can drop down, start right away, and still have a pathway into the college football playoff? And I'm telling you right now, when we take a look at what we have next year with Boise State coming in, Fresno State under Entz, they look like they are turning it around quick. And that is a program that has always been good and has always been a bit of a sleeping giant in the Mountain West Conference, whether it was, Derek Carr, David Carr, whoever was there. I'm pretty sure Fresno State at 41,000 is the top. I think you have Boise State coming in at number 2 with 36,000. And I want to say with the new improvements at Reserve for Oregon State that they're right around that too. So, yeah, I mean, taking a look at what we have next year, I'm feeling pretty good about WSU being near the top of that pecking order. And there's going to be more buzz with our conference next year in terms of that off season with the transfer portal opening up and going, okay, hey, where, like, let's be reasonable here. Guys know where the best options are in the G5 level of where you're going to be able to make a playoff. And that's going to be the South Floridas, the Memphises, the Boise States, the Washington States of the world. So we got to be able to capitalize on that and be able to hit the ground running. But let's keep diving into this game. It gets to 24-14 and it starts to feel like, okay, maybe the wheels are starting to come loose here. But WSU's defense, when it was 17-14, they had stopped Ole Miss 2 separate times on that drive. Sullivan Schwagen was not able to corral the starting quarterback. Can you help me with the name? What was his name again, Connor? Trinidad Chambliss was able to break loose for a scamper and put Ole Miss up 24-14. But Zevi Eckhouse and company with about 6 minutes and change drive down the field and just a big time touchdown here.
Zevi Eckhouse throws to the end zone. Touchdown, Tony Freeman.
Tony Freeman is just having a phenomenal season. 9 receptions, 90 yards, had that touchdown there. And we'll go back to the first quarter, that 3rd and 5 on WSU's, I believe, either first or second drive, one of his only drops of the season. And a lot can change if he makes that catch. And this is my second biggest bugaboo with Jimmy Rogers and the coaching staff. The first being, let's run the ball with 1:09 left on the clock. Our first play of the drive to either tie or win this game. We've got 0 timeouts and 21 seconds gets burned off the clock. That was bugaboo number 1. But bugaboo number 2 is, okay, we're kind of in that no man's land on that 4th and 5 of where Tony Freeman dropped that pass. Like, it's either punt or go for it. Not kick a 54-yard field goal on the road in the SEC with a redshirt freshman kicker. That's not even flipping a quarter, like heads or tails. That it's about an 80% miss rate there. You got to go for it. Like, you're playing with house money at that point. You're at Ole Miss. You're a 33-point underdog. We got to go for that there on 4th and 5. So the other big bugaboo, and we actually have a snippet from Coach Rogers, and I'm honestly utterly surprised that nobody, whether it was Jamie, Greg Woods, or the TV guys, post game, nobody asked about why'd you run the ball on first down with no timeouts.
Here's my only thought on them rushing the ball is, like, Ole Miss is probably in prevent defense. Obviously, you're starting on like your 10-yard line. So what's the route to potentially get the most yards possible in this situation? Might be a draw, might be running it up the middle. If Kirby Voorhees is able to find a seam and then get out of bounds, we're talking a little different here. But your perspective.
I get it too from that standpoint, because they did run a couple draws in those situations and picked up some chunk plays. So like I do get it, but I just at the end of the game, like, you got to open up the playbook a little bit more. Like, we've got to get down the field here. You're starting the drive on the 10-yard line. I mean, I don't think we're there enough as an offense to be able to do that. And hey, if he does break the first down, they probably spike the ball and go into 2nd and 10 just for time reasons. But I need to see some better clock management from my coaching staff than that. And you know what? It took 22 minutes today for this to finally come up, and it wasn't even a question from someone inside the room. Jimmy just brought it up himself. I just like the ownership of it.
If there's anything I regret, it's the first down run play that hit early in the game. We felt like with them being in the coverage that they were in, we could spike a first down, and get our guys on the ball fast enough. And it was a poor call on our part. So we'll just keep getting better. The Virginia, though, I mean, it's going to be a night game. They just watched us play Ole Miss that way. They'll be ready. We're not sneaking up on anybody as far as how hard we play. Because I think in all of our games, you'll see our guys fly around. It's been a mishap of mistakes or technique things here or there, but it hasn't been just complete debacles. It's just been guys at times not making a play.
What'd you take from that, Con?
Yeah, so like you described, I mean, you just have to get better. You have to learn from it. You know, like he described also, and kind of what I said, if you're able to get a first down, solid run, it stops the clock. You're able to get up there, spike the ball, and then you can start passing it. It gives you some breathing room from your end zone to where you can do that. But the fact that the clock keeps running, it's like we're out of time trying to drive the entire field. You can't really do too much at that point. And then another clip that Dylan brought up here is Greg Woods from the Spokesman Review asking him about the Cougs tackling abilities so far this season.
Well, also before you play that, shout out to Greg Woods for asking that. Like, let's start getting some hard hitting questions in there. Like, hey, we gotta hold people accountable.
In the tackling issues, you guys have missed 102 according to PFF, second most nationally. What do you think is like kind of the biggest issue?
You had to throw that in there, huh? It's second lowest. Yeah.
Well,
it's burning my soul. You didn't have to tell me that. But yeah, we're terrible right now at tackling. What do I think leads to it? Poor technique in tackling. Breaking down too far away, not keeping your leverage on the ball, not having the right foot up on contact, not trusting the guy inside of me, being out of control and not maybe giving up what it could be 2 to 3 more yards if I just slow my tempo slightly, but my feet are a big part of how I can make tackles, not dropping our head. Each player's kind of different on the mistakes in which they show in tackling. It's trying to improve the individual that they can be at their best, whether it's certain players have a tendency of dropping their head right now and their eyes are down and they're just dive bombing. Some players are stopping too far away with their feet spread. And if my hands drop, my feet will drop and my base will widen with it. So we got to continue to just press them on taking away the space initially, having the right foot up, keeping my eyes up, keeping my leverage point, understanding that help is coming. And if I don't have help outside of me, I have a sideline. Those are the things that are killing us right now defensively.
Here's my takeaway. First two games of the season, we thought that this was one of the best tackling teams that we had seen in years. And then, of course, North Texas happens. We see the Apple Cup and you see missed tackles and all that arm tackles. But then you're able to beat Colorado State 20-3. You're able to stay in the game 24-1 against Ole Miss while missing the second most tackles in the country. If this defense is able to figure out how to tackle and to really shore up their defense and figure these things out, I mean, that just speaks to the potential of what this team could be.
I think we're a little off on saying this was the best tackling team we've seen in a decade.
The first two games, we were like, hey, this is a solid tackling team.
But now you hear that stat. And granted, like, I think a lot of coaches take PFF with a grain of salt.
Right.
But other than that, I think we saw a lot of improvements from Colorado State, and you bring that into Ole Miss 24-21. I mean, you have another opportunity to have a program-defining win this weekend in Charlottesville.
Now, kind of pivoting into this matchup versus Virginia, it's going to be 3:30 Pacific time, 6:30 Eastern in Charlottesville against the 18-ranked Virginia Cavaliers. They're currently 5-1. They are favored by 17.5. The over/under is 56.5. And some notables is that there's a senior quarterback transfer, Chandler Morris, who's actually the son of North Texas head coach Eric Morris, who has a 80.7 quarterback ranking, which is 17th in the country. He's also somewhat of a dual threat guy. He can run if needed. He's got 11 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, completing 70% of his passes. There's also a few running backs to look for. Their lead guy and running back Shamari Taylor is tied for 5th in the country in rushing touchdowns. They also have some solid receiving depth. So it's going to be a challenge. Obviously, we speculated that they might stay on the East Coast for the entire week to adapt to the time zone. Turns out Washington State played at Ole Miss. They're coming back to Pullman. Then they're going back to the East Coast. So they're going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, and this is one of the better rushing attacks we'll see. Obviously, Jonah Coleman at UW and Muhammad, and then what we saw last week with Lacey. I mean, it really hasn't stopped. Like 3 of the past 4 opponents have really had top 20 running backs in the nation. You also have Harrison Wiley, who transferred from Wyoming. They've got 3-4 guys that can handle the rock, and it's going to be one of those situations where who's got the hot hand is who's going to stay in the game. There's not really a sandwich game opportunity here. I don't think everybody's like getting up for playing Bill Belichick and Jordan next weekend, because I think they do go at North Carolina after playing us. And like Coach Rogers said in his press conference this week, like everybody saw the performance against Ole Miss. We're not surprising anybody this weekend in Virginia. And if that's the case, well, then Virginia is just not ready for the game. But I will tell you this. I think taking plus 17.5 is a smart bet this weekend. I think this team's pretty hungry right now. I think this coaching staff is very hungry. I think everybody's looking for that defining win of the season. It didn't come against UW in the Apple Cup. You didn't win your rivalry game. Okay, you've got 2 games against Oregon State, but they're 0-7 right now. So is that a defining win? No. Who do you have left on the schedule? Toledo, Oregon State twice, Louisiana Tech, James Madison. I mean, there's not that many opportunities for that defining win. It could be James Madison 4 or 5 weeks from now. They don't have a bad team. They're one of the better G5 teams in the Sun Belt, but
The last potential ranked team you're going to be playing is right now.
exactly. It's this weekend. This is the week to get it done. So going to be exciting. I mean, what are we going to see with Devin Ellison in terms of an injury report? I do have some insider info to Christian Hilborn via source. Overheard that the expectation is he's hoping to return for a game against Oregon State. What game that is, I don't know. So I don't expect to see Christian Hilborn playing this weekend against Virginia. I guess that's probably the news.
And with that, let's go ahead and transition into the interview with University of Virginia beat writer Jacquie Franciulli. But before we do, of course, as always, make sure to check out CougFan.com, subscribe to their premium membership for all things WSU athletics. They're our go-to for all things insider information. And if you or somebody you know is thinking of buying, selling, or refinancing on the West Coast, send them my way. There's going to be a link in the description to reach out and connect. I'm a mortgage loan originator when I'm not making these sports videos, licensed in Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, and Arizona. Reach out. It's my goal to help as many WSU alumni as I can. And Dylan.
Yeah. When you get that mortgage done with Connor, go ahead and give me a call or an email. If you guys are looking to lock in a energy rate for the next 25 years, because I'll tell you what, the power company is just going to keep going up. All right. On an average of 5 to 10% of a year. All right. So lock that rate in for 25 years and you don't have to deal with the power company.
And if you didn't already know, you could leave us a voicemail or send us an email with your thoughts, opinions, questions. The Google Voice number that goes straight to voicemail. You can share your thoughts, 503-388-6044, or you can email us at thecouchgmpnw@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, let's get into our interview with Jacquie.
Hello and welcome to another week of Cougs on the Couch. We're joined by a special guest of Wahoo's 247, a writer and publisher, Jacquie Franciulli, covering the number 18 Virginia Cavaliers. It's been a little bit of a renaissance in Charlottesville for the Cavaliers this year, and they're led by quarterback Chandler Morris, who transferred over here from North Texas. Today, I learned that Chandler Morris, his dad, is the head coach at North Texas, Eric Morris. I had no idea, but take us to how Virginia's gotten to this point. I believe 5-1, number 18 in the country, and really seeing a path forward in the ACC this season with a possible college playoff implications.
Yeah, I mean, this all really started in the offseason. They attacked the transfer portal, got over 30 guys from the transfer, reinforced the trenches, obviously picked up Chandler Morris from North Texas. So their journey to 5-1 started then. It's when the Virginia staff realized they needed to reinforce the roster and get great pieces to make this offensive scheme work that hasn't quite clicked since this year. I mean, they finally got the offensive line doing what they needed to do, protecting the quarterback. They finally got a quarterback that fit the system and had veteran experience, because they had Tony Muskett come in and he got hurt on that first game against Tennessee. Then you had a freshman come in, Anthony Calandria, who fit the scheme, but it was so young. and he was kind of learning and kind of thrown into the fire. So Virginia didn't have a guy like Chandler Morris. And we can now see what happens when you have a veteran guy under center with an offensive line that can protect him and those pieces that can get the ball. All these guys coming in from the portal and then developing players that they were able to bring in from their own recruiting class, like linebacker Cam Robinson, like some of the other guys like wide receiver Cam Courtney. Some of the defensive linemen has come from them, like Mikhail Boley, their left tackle. So that's basically how they came to this point. It was a concerted effort after their big donation to attack the portal through their donation through NIL. And now this is what we see right now.
You say big donation. What happened on that front? Was there a booster coming in?
Yeah, a booster came in, an anonymous donation, multi-million-dollar donation, 2 or 3 days before the portal opened in December. And Virginia's kind of whole plan from the portal was scrapped, and they started anew. That opened a whole lot of new windows and doors, what have you. They just went in there and attacked the portal very differently than they did. I mean, their list of targets completely changed in the span of 24 hours. So that's why you've seen more success this year.
Just, what's in this envelope? Oh, it's a giant check.
Yes, exactly. Tony Elliott's like, oh, okay, this is definitely changing the game for us. We are going to be good next year. And that's what kind of they did. I mean, they got the 2 top targets on quarterback for them. They got a guy for this year and a guy for the future. So, I mean, it's pretty successful when you get your number 1, number 2 quarterbacks in the portal.
You guys, 48-7 against Coastal Carolina, trip up at North Carolina State, but some blowouts, William & Mary, Stanford, and then a couple back-to-back overtime games. Now that Florida State win, we don't really know where that's at, considering what they've done over the last couple of weeks. Do you feel like folks are still, like the jury's still out on Virginia, with what Florida State's done over the past couple of weeks?
No, because I've been covering this team for a while now, and the dominating performance that you see against Coastal Carolina to Stanford and William & Mary, for those who have not been close to the program, might just dismiss it as a game that Virginia should have won and should have won that easily. But for someone who's covered this team for a while, and even when I first got out of college, this is not a team that does that, not a program that does that. I mean, Virginia struggled to beat Richmond, I believe, last year or the year before, and there was, they lost to JMU. So it's a program that hasn't met those expectations of dominating those teams, but this year they're doing what they're meant to do, which is very different. And I think that's why when I see those results, I see, no, this is a team that is making progress. They're meeting the expectations that are in front of them, which is different. They're also, in those games, I mean, they were playing their true freshman quarterback by the third, fourth quarter. I mean, Chandler Morris sat down in the second quarter. That is a difference that we did not see from a previous Virginia team. So although those are expected wins, it's the way they played in those games that is different. And then against Louisville, yes, it was an overtime game, and we talked about Florida State, but their starting offensive line was not available in any of those 2 games. Their starting center did not start against Florida State. They moved their right guard to center. And then they had to come in with Kevin Wigington at right guard, who was hurt. He was playing hurt. And then you have Jack Whitmer, who was at right tackle. That's his 4th option at right tackle because the previous 3 were all hurt. And then during Louisville's game, you had the same starting 5 from the Florida State game, but then their left tackle, Mikhail Boley, got hurt in that second quarter and did not play at all in that second half. So although you're seeing 2 close games against 2 pretty good opponents for them that attacked some of the mismatches that you fear from Virginia, they still overcame a lot. I mean, when you look at all those injuries on the O-line, to do what they did still says a lot of this program.
Now, we've talked a bit about quarterback Chandler Morris. His 80.7 QBR is 17th in the country. He's amassed 1,428 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions so far this year, completing 69.9% of his passes. Can you talk through some of the other weapons? I see running back Jamari Taylor. He's tied for 5th in the country in rushing touchdowns. So who are the other weapons that the Washington State Cougars are going to have to defend?
I mean, you had star Jamari Taylor. I mean, he has been a remarkable running back. Keith Gaither, during the offseason, would say in his press conferences for us, he's going to be the best back in the ACC. And of course, when you're thinking of preseason, you're like, of course, you're going to say that. But no, he meant it. I mean, you're seeing why. And the reason why he's so good is because it takes more than one guy to bring him down, takes more than one tackle. I mean, that touchdown that he had against Florida State that tied the game up right before halftime, he was hit and he rolled off that tackle. And then so I joke that he Houdini'd his way out of it because he came out of this bunch of groups. Not even his teammates thought he was going to make it. You see the reaction slow time of one of the offensive linemen kind of whip his head, say, oh, he's out. And he runs out to the end zone. And even when he's not having his best game, he's still able to give you the big plays like that winning touchdown against Louisville. But the key for Virginia is he's not the only running back that can produce for you. Behind him, you have Xavier Brown, who is a name that we've known for a couple of years. He's able to stay healthy this year because he's got Jamari Taylor, because he's got Harrison Whaley also behind him, and each of them provide a different
Wyoming legend.
So, and then you also add Noah Vaughn, who's been hurt since the William Mary game. And that was a game that he was having kind of a come out game before he hurt his ankle. He is now expected to be ready to go by this week. I'm not sure if he's going to be available to play this Saturday, but it was kind of hinted that he was already going to start practicing during the bye week, which means you'll have 4 options at running back, and they each can also participate in the passing game. That's with the addition of some of the passers, like Trell Harris is one of the wide receivers I would say is notable. He can really stretch the field. He was one of the guys who had a big impact in the game against Florida State. Cam Ross has been having a little more of a quiet games since his big coming out against William Mary, where he kind of scored on special teams as a kickoff return and also on offense. But he has a lot of speed. So if he catches one and he misses that first tackle, he can go all the way to the end zone. So his speed is one that you should know about. Those are kind of the 2 big receiver options. I mean, Cam Courtney in the slot is also another option that they come in as well. Unfortunately, Dakota Tweedy, tight end, he's most likely going to miss a lot of the games here towards the second half of the season with an injury he picked up in Louisville. But Sage Ennis is a guy who's been open a lot in the end zone. I mean, before this year, he had 0 receptions in 5 years of playing college football, and he has 3 touchdowns this year. So he's another option for Chandler Morris. And it's mostly because of Chandler Morris, the way he holds on the ball and he goes through his progressions, you're giving those guys an ability to get open, separate, make their separations and run their routes, and they have the plays develop, and he's got options. So that's why you're seeing a lot more options for the Virginia offense.
Now, WSU has a very unique schedule this year. As you saw, they played Ole Miss this last week. They're traveling all throughout the country, all the different conferences. This game was added back in April 2024, and it's a home and home matchup. Can you walk me through when this game was initially added, Washington State being added to Virginia's calendar, what the initial reaction was to that, and your insights?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was back on the beat by the time this game was added. I came from the Gators beat, so I think this was the game that came just about when I came back on the beat. I mean, the reaction was that it was a good chance to go to non-conference matchup. I think what Virginia's tried to do is kind of what they did with the NC State matchup, which was actually a non-conference game against a conference opponent, is try to strengthen the schedule, but also prepare you for what the ACC schedule might do. Yes, you have the William & Mary's games and the Coastal Carolinas, but this is a game that Virginia is wanting to put on there. So they have ability to create a better strength of schedule, as we saw against Ole Miss. This is a good chance for Virginia to kind of start off the right foot after a bye week. So there was the only trepidation is the next time you're going to the state of Washington, and that's always interesting travel. I mean, this year Virginia is going to be doing that when they face Cal in about 2 weeks. So that is the only thing that I think some fans may have some trepidation in having a home and home in this situation, because I mean, traveling out west, you don't know what can happen. I mean, James Franklin's career kind of had a sharp turn after his West Coast trip. So that's obviously something that it's kind of put some fans in hesitation when it comes to home and home.
It's almost like college football should have conferences based off regionality and, proximity. And like we had that before, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot right now. And this is Virginia's first West Coast trip since the ACC expansion. So they've avoided that last year. So it's interesting what they're going to do with that one, flying out a day early. But yeah, it's definitely a different college football landscape now.
You don't see them like getting out of that game with the Power Four now moving to 9 conference games. I mean, is that the return trip pretty much locked, or do you see Virginia maybe even making a move and buying it out?
It kind of depends. I think if it kind of I don't have on top of my head what that schedule would look like. But yeah, I mean, they also have ODU on their schedule in the next few years here. And ODU has made it a menace in itself in in-state programs. I mean, Virginia Tech. I mean, Brent Pry hates it, probably ODU right now too. So it'll probably be interesting to see if they keep ODU or Washington State moving on to 9 conference games. I would imagine those may be the ones that they target to move, because they probably still want to keep the, cupcake game, at least one on there as a warm up. But yeah, it's going to be interesting how these conferences and what they're changing their schedules and how the lineups, and also, honestly, also what happens this year with the college football playoffs in regards to how many ACC teams get into the college football playoffs and how many wins and losses they could consider. Because now for Virginia, let's say, would a 1-loss Virginia behind or 2-loss Virginia, if they lost to Miami in ACC title game, or a 3-loss ACC team make it in, then it gives you a different perspective. But if you don't have a 2-loss team in there, but you have a 3-loss SEC team, you're kind of weighing like what's the best way to get an ACC team or 2 or 3 into the college football playoffs. So a lot of that is going to be determined by that too.
Yeah, and the second half of the home and home is in 2031, so it's a ways down the road. So there's some time for stuff to happen.
I mean, who would have thought when this game was that UCLA would be in the Big Ten? So it's a lot of things.
Kind of speaking to conference realignment, what's Virginia's take been on this whole conference realignment? Cal and Stanford are now in the ACC. As you mentioned, you were able to avoid the travel out west, but I mean, this is just madness.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, the Cal game, for instance, Virginia will be leaving on Thursday evening to travel to Cal, and they have to adjust how their schedule is, because usually they have a Thursday practice in the evening, so their practice schedules are evening, but they'll be flying out on Thursday, and generally they just have a walkthrough on Friday, so they don't know if they're going to have to do a practice out on Friday when they get there to Cal, so they're adjusting their schedules. I mean, you also have UVA players still need to take their classes, so they'll be going to their class on Thursday and then flying out Thursday evening. I mean, the Friday night game against Florida State, there was players that had exams and work due on that Friday morning, so it's a very different dynamic. So it's just trying to figure out that, and then we don't know what time kickoff will be. It's most likely been a 10:30 p.m. kickoff. That's generally what we've been seeing with these. So you have that. So these guys are playing very late. How do you adjust to jet lag? They had another road game the week before, so it'll be at North Carolina, and then they'll go to at Cal. You have to deal with the equipment, how they're going to do the West Coast travel for your equipment. I mean, it's a lot. And then for Virginia, the week after that, they have Wake Forest and they have another Roma at Duke. So you got a lot of road games in those 4 weeks. It's definitely very different. And I know Virginia, Carla Williams, the athletic director, has been very involved in the realignment conversation. I mean, I think we reported 2 years ago that she's been kind of spearheaded a lot of this conversation within the ACC. And she was kind of one of those ACC schools that kind of led the way in those conversations, talking a little bit about what the ACC plan is, but also we've heard like a lot of things going on with other options for Virginia. I mean, you've heard a lot of scuttlebutt about the SEC, the Big Ten, with the teaming up with North Carolina, how that would work. So Virginia is not waiting for things to happen. I think it's one of the schools definitely that has a lot of eyes on it, because I think a lot of people before the season would think that I was joking when I said Virginia is a program that some conferences are really liking to add to their conference. But because of the location and the TV market that Charlottesville, Virginia would bring, you would bring the DC, Northern Virginia market. That's an area where conferences would really like. So, and also Virginia has still a lot of investments in all the sports that they have. They haven't cut any sports so far. So that is definitely something that also gives them a little edge when it comes to conference realignments. And now that football is showing some success, I mean, that also helps.
Now, the Cougs travel well. This past weekend at Ole Miss, there was thousands of fans that traveled down. There was fans of Ole Miss that said in their entire time of, being an Ole Miss fan that they haven't seen a visiting section so large and so loud. So walk us through what the experience is like to be in Charlottesville for a game day.
Yeah, it's nice that it's going to be an evening game. So that'll be nice, because that means you get the night environment, the lights. Usually the crowds are very packed during the night games. They've been much better this year. I think the Florida State game was their biggest crowd in a while. The student section, they have a hill and they usually fills up. for students. But yeah, I mean, it's a work in progress for Virginia. They've been really pushing getting the fans more experience. They have food trucks available in the game. I mean, I think Chick-fil-A will be there. They have a food truck there. In true Central Virginia fashion, there's a wine truck in one of the sides of the gates. So they've really tried to. Huh? Oh, there's cookout. There's Charlottesville. There is a cookout, but it's not in the stadium. But there is cookout in Charlottesville.
One of my favorites.
Actually, I was going to say, you guys probably read Brandon Huffman a lot from 24/7 Sports. He's came to Charlottesville a few times, and he always stopped by Cookout. So, so there is a Cookout in Charlottesville. It's actually right by campus. So, or grounds, how Virginia calls it, grounds. So there's a Cookout by camp. There's a lot of different foods. It's a small town, so there's a lot of local small restaurants. There's a lot of local businesses around. I'm originally from Miami, Florida, so it's a very interesting adjustment from a smaller Central Virginia city. But there's a lot of good places to eat.
In terms of, I guess, what the ambiance of the stadium is this year, have you seen just a night and day difference with it as opposed to previous seasons in Virginia?
For sure. I mean, last year, Virginia actually started really well as well. And they came home to the Maryland game, and there wasn't that environment that they needed, right? There was a close game, and they always say when you have a fan backing, you can probably get the edge in those close games just because it creates a nice environment, and you might be able to steal a drive here or there because of the noise. They didn't have that last year. There still wasn't that belief that this team was going to be better. This year, there's a belief. It's how they're winning. It's like I said, when you go out there and you dominate Coastal Carolina as you should, it gets people excited. Then you walk that back, and yes, you played NC State and you lost, but it was the way they played the game. You saw that this offense was going to improve. And the NC State game, they didn't have their best defensive star. Linebacker Cam Robinson was out. And that was one of the main reasons NC State was able to run the ball. So when you look at those things, you're like, okay, this team is going places. Let's see how they recover from a negative experience. And what they did was they beat William & Mary, dominated William & Mary. And then they won against Stanford, a team that, maybe last year they wouldn't have dominated. They would have been a close game. But so that has really heightened the student involvement. They've been really making a push and making sure that the students are involved. They've also been reaching out the community. I mean, I live about 40 minutes away from where the campus is, and my kids go to the local school district. They've been working with local school districts to get that community involved so they can come to the games. They've been really kind of preaching, this is a community event, come to see Virginia, and it's been working. And you're seeing that creating a very good home environment. I mean, I think the expectation is that this game is going to have about the same amount of fans as a Florida State one.
17.5 favorites this week. What would be your final score for Saturday night?
Oh, actually haven't thought of the score yet. It's been a bye week, so I kind of took a couple days off. I'm not sure if I agree with 17.5 because I'm still waiting here who is available for Virginia. They were expecting a lot of their offensive linemen to be back for this game, but I wasn't quite sure who was yet. I haven't checked with any sources yet. I usually try to check in Tuesday or Wednesday. We get Tony Elliott on Tuesday. I think this might be a closer game. I was thinking Virginia maybe by 10, just because I wasn't sure who was available yet. Because I think if Brady Wilson is back at center, which is I expect him to be because it was a calf strain and they said about 3 weeks, and this will be the 3-week mark. If he's back, that means you put Drake Metcalf back at right guard, which means you can have Kevin Wigginton come in and he can play both left guard and right guard. And you can kind of play around with moving other guys if Mikhail Boley is not available. So I think that would be what I would assume would be a closer game if he's not available. Because if Brady Wilson's not available, then I'm thinking, okay, what happens if Kevin Wigginton's still not 100% and Mikhail Boley's not 100%? You kind of hope that he's going to be available. And then Chandler Morris, he had an issue with his thumb against Florida State. There was this one drive in the third quarter. They basically just ran the ball down Florida State's throat and then scored a touchdown. He didn't throw one pass. And he didn't seem like himself against Louisville. That was something that we saw. There was missed times. They were out of rhythm. So right now, all I've heard is that he feels fine. He's okay. But you kind of want to check it back in the week of the game. So I'm giving Virginia a 10-point advantage right now. But again, I don't buy the 17.5.
So check in with the injury report later on.
Yes. So we hear from Tony Elliott at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and he's pretty transparent when it comes to injuries. He kind of lets us know then who's available, who's not, and who's day to day. And then on Wahoo's 24/7, we kind of deep dive on Wednesday. A little bit more on what we're hearing. And obviously we have our ACC report. Actually, no, this is not an ACC game, so we don't get the injury report this week, but generally we'll know Wednesday or Thursday by talking to people around the program.
Last question for me. I know it's Monday, so it might be a little early in the week, but I'm curious your thoughts on, what the outside perspective of Washington State might be at this point, because obviously they're 3-3. They had a couple early blowouts, completely new coaching staff, 75 new players, but then, it's a 4-point game against Ole Miss coming into the matchup versus Virginia. So I'm curious if you have seen much from Washington State, if what you've heard about them.
Yeah, so I haven't deep dived Washington State, but I can tell you what the perception was before this past week. I think Virginia fans, especially just looking at my message board, they probably thought this was a game where they can kind of breeze over. I think that was the expectation coming in. I think in my experience, you never should do that, especially after I covered UVA for a few years. But I think that was the perception. I think Ole Miss, that game kind of woke people up. And I think it woke Virginia up as well. I think it woke, I'm going to be taking a look at that game to see what to expect from Washington State. But for me, it's always, I believe, right now, I saw one of the wide receivers have a really good game against Ole Miss for Washington State. The name is
Tony Freeman, 9
Yes.
receptions, 90 yards. Yeah.
So that's something that when I saw that stat line, and I actually have it DVR'd so I can watch, what that for me is Virginia secondary has been an issue for them against wide receivers, especially guys with bigger frames. So I want to see how he played against Ole Miss, because for me, that would be one of the battles for Virginia, right? You need to negate those explosive plays. And Virginia has struggled against certain receivers. I mean, they did against Deuce Robinson in Florida State, and they did also against Chris Bell. The only thing that saved them against Louisville was they finally were able to get pressure up front with both Daniel Rickard and Mitchell Melton. They were able to get 5 sacks in that second half against the Cardinals. But in the first half, they were struggling to get that pressure. They were having some issues up front. And I think they were having just rotating guys a little bit too much. Then they kind of settled into their packages and situations. They kind of figured out what worked on Miller Moss. But that first half was a little hard for that secondary. So for me, I'm curious about watching tape on Washington State is about that wide receiver, because that's an area that Virginia is still struggling, is minimizing those plays in the secondary.
Well, Jacquie, we really appreciate you spending your evening. I know you're 3 hours ahead of us, and you say it's a night game for you. It's going to be a nice midday game for us here living in the Pacific Coast. But Jacquie Franciulli, where can folks find your work this week as they dig deep for those ever important injury reports and everything else involved with the beat?
Sure. So you can find everything on wahoos247.com. It's the Virginia site on 24/7. I also have a YouTube channel that's Wahoo's 24/7 as well. We'll have a podcast that we publish on Wednesday. That's generally when we have all the updates as far as injuries and what the players and Tony Elliott are saying. And then so we'll have that. And also you can follow me on X as well at Jacquie Fran. So, and you can find me on several different platforms.
Beautiful. Well, Jacquie, thank you so much for spending time with us. And we'll be looking forward to what Charlottesville looks like for a game day experience this Saturday.
Thanks for having me.